Hey there, everybody. It is me, Chris Herman, here for another episode of On Deck. And holy smokes, it's a special one. Episode 100, a real milestone for myself and the show. And who better to spend this episode with than Mr. Mark Salcido? Mark is a friend of mine from the industry. We've worked together for many years. Mark is the Senior Vice President of Sales and Business Development for TapClassifieds, which is a company out of California that serves the retail automotive business. And Mark has brought many great solutions to our agency. We work together and have for many years. He's a great guy, great representative for his company, and I was really thrilled to be able to have him here today. So without further ado, here we go. It's episode 100 and Mr. Mark Salcido. Enjoy. Mark,
welcome
to you, sir. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, and I feel honored to be in this hot seat, in the sense that of your 99 episodes, I've watched probably 60% of them.
Well,
minimum.
Thank you. I appreciate that, man. That means a lot to me. You know, it's obviously been a labor of love, if you will, and I'm always happy to have, some feedback of people such as yourself listening to the show. So thank you, man. I appreciate it.
I've listened to family. I've listened to people in the automotive business. I've listened to comedians. I've listened to musicians. So it's been a wide variety of guests you have. So I'm honored to be here.
All right. Well, thanks, Mark. Mark Salcido, welcome. You, sir, are on deck. You've come all the way from the great state of California all the way across the country here with your crew to be in Florida. I know you had some other engagements, but I certainly am thankful and happy that you are here, man. It's good to see you.
Good to see you too. I think we've known each other for over a decade.
I think that it has been that long. And so I won't get it perfect, but Mark, you are currently in a leadership role with TapClassifieds, right?
Correct.
And your company serves the retail automotive space with a number of, let's call it, digital solutions and opportunities for dealers to help grow their business on the marketing side. How'd I do there?
You did fantastic. So it's TapClassifieds. Basically, we help dealerships sell vehicles quicker. And I think the key to that is we have a marketing automation solution that provides VIN-specific leads for dealerships. Most importantly, we provide customer engagement solutions, with the key piece to me being an AI virtual assistant to allow dealerships respond 24/7. And I think today the automotive industry is in tremendous flux with regards to inventory challenges or high interest rates or these really competitive automotive retailers. So I think it really comes down to communication. And the dealership needs to be able to have a platform where they can touch a wide variety of audiences. The web is so fragmented. People prefer to chat than call or email a dealership. So these dealers need to be very flexible and willing to evolve to be successful for the next 5 to 10 years.
Mm-hmm. I agree. It's let's call it, it's a very fluid time. People like to use that word, fluid. And, I mentioned this earlier, and, one of the main reasons that you and I are sitting here now and have known each other for a long time is because you have always been a fantastic representative and of an advocate for whatever company you have worked for. You've been a great partner, client provider with us here at the agency, and just a really great guy to work with. And I know I said that before, when we were talking off the air, but I think I want to make sure that I say that here because you've really done a great job working with us over the years, and I thank you for that.
Well, thank you. I've always looked at it as a partnership.
Yes, and you've always treated it as such, and it's very obvious. And so I would imagine that anybody that has the opportunity to work with you gets to appreciate that same, level of super goodness that you offer.
Well, thank you. It's try to do. I think there's nothing better than a referral.
There you go.
So
I'm curious. I don't know if we've ever discussed this, and if we have, my apologies, because I'm getting older and I'm starting to forget things. But how did you get into the retail automotive space?
I kind of fell into it. And so I was very fortunate in the late 90s to get involved in a startup. And that startup was Ticketmaster Online City Search. And so I was in the entertainment business from kind of the late 90s to 2014. I was VP of sales, and we were very successful. It was having a perfect solution when it was Web 1.0. And people were actually going to buy a ticket online. People were going to look online for sporting events and music events. They were going to look online to find a restaurant. They were going to look online to go to a day spa. And this was really talking to athletic clubs or venues or restaurants and hotels and sharing with them, you need to have a website. So it was really early days, and it was just perfect timing. And then I got a little bit bored, and I went to CBS. And CBS was a great learning opportunity for me. It was multimedia sales professionals who grew up and had their career with radio and TV and billboard. Now they needed to sell multimedia solutions. And it was a really interesting time for a few years where I got to learn about that side of the business. And we'd make bundled sales, radio and digital, TV and digital, billboard and digital. And one of the things I noticed was automotive was the number one vertical for radio and TV sales reps. And then I was being introduced at the tier 3 level through CBS. In my previous life, I knew the tier 1 and tier 2 levels very well because, Mercedes-Benz of Northern California wanted to be associated with Pebble Beach Pro-Am. And so now all of a sudden I was working with these tier 3 dealers, and it was really good men and women at these stores. And I was contacted by a startup company called Target Media Partners. And we had the goal of growing to 3,000 dealerships. And in about 3.5 years, we were able to do that and be able to grow really fast. And we sold the business to a great company in Arizona, and they've grown very well with those media solutions that we had. And I've kind of stayed in the business since 2015, calling on tier 3 dealers primarily. And so there's been a lot of change in the space since I've been there. It's been from, transitioning budgets to digital to now kind of transitioning from digital to OTT and, back to video. So it's almost coming full circle for many of them.
Yeah, we were talking about that earlier as well, too, that there's like this sort of swirling. We will have a little bit of a cut there, but
we'll have some editing.
Yeah, there'll be an edit. Normally there's not edits, but every now and then if we have a little bit of a technical thing, we take a little pause. So let's bring it back to, okay, so I had a question as you were going in, and just forgive me, but like there was TapClicks and TapClassifieds. Are these same companies or different companies?
Same founder.
Same founder.
2 companies.
Okay.
We work out of the same office space.
And what's the difference in the business model?
Sure. I'd say TapClassifieds has 3 strengths: marketing automation, so lead generation, customer engagement, so chat solutions, AI virtual assistants, and then attribution dashboards.
Okay.
I think with TapClicks, their strength is dashboards and really reporting across all mediums, so they can go to a Gannett or a CBS or whoever it might be and be able to help them really qualify the media spends that they have across multiple mediums, from search engine marketing to digital video to traditional radio to television. And they're very strong within the marketplace.
Gotcha. Okay.
Same founder.
So how has your experience been over the last couple of years? We all know that this industry has gone through remarkable change. The inventory shortages, the chip shortages have fundamentally changed the business, for the last couple of years, and I think possibly has the opportunity to change the business for a long time into the future. You, like me, are working on the partner, provider, vendor side, however you want to call that. What's it been like for you over the last couple of years working with dealers as we've gone through these changes?
So we work with both dealers direct as well as with partners.
Right.
So it's really interesting. I have the opportunity to work with partners who are leading media companies across the country to leading agencies like Herman. And I think what we have seen in the last couple of years with the chip shortage and new vehicle shortage, used vehicles being really expensive, is communication. So I think it's really important for that dealer to really understand how important it is to inform the shopper exactly what they want to have instantly. There's no longer I can call them back later today. There's no longer I can reach back to them within the hour. People want to have response instantly, and they want to have their questions answered. So I think either with a human being or with an AI virtual assistant, you must address, here's the price, here's the Carfax, here's the mileage of the vehicle, here's the color of the interior instantly, because that's what the automotive retailers are doing.
So in your communication with dealers, are you finding them to be understanding of that need? Because what you're talking about is what the consumer's desire is, which is that instant feedback, instant information, because they're able to get that on almost any other purchase outside of the, maybe a car or a home purchase. Are the dealers receptive to that message?
I believe so. And I believe I'm going to segment it into two areas. The dealerships that are being successful and they're growing and they're probably acquiring a couple stores or some rooftops in the local area or regionally, and those that don't are going to struggle and maybe be an acquisition target. And I really do believe that dealerships today are investing more into their staff than they ever have, which is a win-win for the dealership. It's a win-win for the shopper. And I think it's critically important.
I'm curious, where are you seeing that? Because I know, dealerships are running with smaller staff at this point in time. That staff is certainly in most cases more well compensated right now. But what other additional areas are you seeing where there's some investment going into, staff at dealerships?
I think it's training. And I think it's really highlighting the importance of, communicating back to the communicating back to the shopper in a timely manner, answering questions versus trying to say immediately, what's your phone number, what's your email, gathering that lead information. Nurture the person, engage the person. I think a lot of people might come in for vehicle A and they drive away in vehicle C or D.
Oh, certainly now.
Yeah. So yeah. I think it's really critical with regards to having those soft skills as well as being able to close. Right. And I think the dealerships know that hiring is a big challenge at dealerships today. They need to be able to find the men and women who want to be able to work weekends, who want to be able to work nights, right? And so it's maybe not the most desirable first job that people want to have, but once they're trained and in the industry, it can be a fantastic career. And I think probably the first 6 months at a dealership is really critical to foster that environment of success.
You've spent many years in the business now, and in a sales capacity, to I would say a large degree. How did you find it coming into the retail automotive space, like in terms of outreach and connecting with potential new clients? And now that you've been doing it for many years, how have you been able to continue to grow your business via outreach into a market segment that can be challenging?
Absolutely. And it is hard. And this is not an easy business. And so I think the sales professionals, the business development professionals who are succeeding are viewed as the trusted advisor. They're able to communicate benefits. This is the reason why you want to be able to move forward with this solution or invest 20 minutes to learn about this solution and understand that not every sale, even though every meeting, we would like it to end up being a sale, it might be just information. And being able to help educate the dealership staff with regards to what is taking place on TikTok or Google or these other platforms that the tier 3 automotive aggregators have. What's the positive of them? There's successful companies out there, and being able to be fair and say this is what they do well, and maybe this is an area of opportunity for the dealership.
Yeah, it's. I'm glad to hear you say that, because what I have always found is, dealers have grown so accustomed and weary of being sold, right? I mean, it's they've dealt with it for years and years and years, and having been in our side of the business, we are selling, to some degree. But I think you're absolutely right that the benefit is to build that relationship and provide value in any number of ways. And sometimes providing value does not result in a financial transaction, right? Or, compensation. But it does result in you becoming somebody that they can communicate with and know that you're going to be honest with them and tell them exactly what it is that you think can be helpful to their business, regardless if it's beneficial to you.
Right. I read an article once, or I listened to a podcast potentially. It was like 2015, 2016. And it was about a typical Tier 3 dealership. And I believe the statistic was in a typical calendar month, there'll be like 55 to 60 sales professionals reaching out to the dealership, kind of reaching into their pocket to earn marketing funds. And it could be anything from TV, radio, to digital and search engine marketing and OTT, or even the high school program. And so I think the dealerships the men and women get a little bit jaded with constantly being bombarded with people leaving messages, walking in the store with, well, we have this,
right.
or me too, us too, whatever it might be. So I think dealerships value the professionals who come in and add value, provide benefits, being able to understand the industry, and they'll respect you for that. And I think the dealers also have a very short fuse for those that don't. Mm-hmm. And I think it's all about reading your audience. It's life. It's kind of having those, being socially aware, being understanding the room, reading the room, know when to wrap up, know when to go for the sale or not. It's just reading the room. I think that's the key.
Right. I've always, my favorite part, my favorite part of working with dealers is being with them in the store. Right. And there's been a lot less of that over the last couple years, certainly, having gone through COVID. And it's something that I'm getting ready to make, some trips out there, to visit with our clients face to face and getting back into the rhythm and the routine of that. I just find, so much more gets done when you have the opportunity to sit down face to face, read the room. You can pick up on the nuances. You can address them. You can present what you have to present, and you can have a meaningful conversation about anything. And those pieces, have always been very important to how I've been able to stay successful doing this for so many years. Is quite frankly just the personal engagement. It's why I chose. I've not done any podcast via remote feed or over the laptop or anything. Sure. Because I don't want to, right? I want to be able to sit here and look you in the eyes and read your body language and just kind of see how things go with the flow through the conversation. And I enjoy that tremendously with clients as well too. And that does give you the opportunity to develop the conversation, to develop the relationship, and to present ideas and concepts in a way where you're not selling, you're not. You might be, right? There may be financial benefit to yourself or your company for what you're presenting, but being able to do it in a way where you're sitting down and talking about stuff, I think almost anybody likes that better.
Absolutely, and I think because the dealer has so many people calling on them, we have a new hire, and so the last couple of weeks I've been doing a lot of new hire training.
Right.
And one of the pieces of advice I gave our new hire was pre-call preparation. So many people will contact the dealer. Take a couple minutes, and that's all it takes to go to their website, let's say, see what the current promotion is. Go look at their new inventory. What's the count? Go look at the used inventory. What's the count? What is the interest rate, or what is their promotion, whatever it might be. So when you're actually engaged with the woman or man who's the decision maker at the dealership, you can start communicating some of those numbers that you've done some pre-call preparation. You are taking the initiative to understand their business, and you're going to differentiate yourself versus the person who walks in and says, how many vehicles do you have today? Are you running a promotion today? They did no pre-call preparation.
Right.
If I'm the dealer, I want to work with people who are investing some time to learn about me.
Well, and that's something that, we've always worked hard to do, and sometimes we've been better at it or not, but it's like, don't come to the table without something, right? You know, you don't go to a dealer and say, well, what do you want to do this month? Right? That's why they fired the last company, right? Like, you know, they've hired you to come to the table. Now, I've also found that many of the clients that we work with have a very clear and distinct sense of what they want to do and a style to it. And sometimes it's their idea, or sometimes a lot of times it's their idea, right? But that doesn't mean you've got to keep coming to the table with something, right?
Right.
Even if they say, no, you know, we'd rather do this. Okay, great. We're here to help facilitate that as well too. But you've got to keep coming to the table with something.
Absolutely. And I think it's that trusted advisor. I also think it is being persistent. Sometimes they want to see somebody come back 2 or 3 times. And then I really believe this, Chris, anyone can make a sale. I really do believe that. The key is retaining that sale. And so delivering on what you're going to be, you know, promising in your value proposition. And I learned very early in my career, the worst thing you can do is make a sale and then not show your face for the next 90 or 120 days, right?
Oh, yeah.
You know, that's not good, because they're waiting for you to come back in. Where has been this guy?
Right.
You know, where's Mark?
Yeah.
You know, so I think it's really important. I'm a big believer in the mid-month touch. As you know, I'm a big believer in the monthly recaps. And, you know, just always being able to let that dealership know that the investment that they're making in my company is going to provide a positive ROI.
Now, one of the things that's, you know, that we're working on together it's the new thing, right? Are the Google VLAs, right? And I've heard them referred to as GVAs and GVLAs, whatever. But essentially it is these, you know, specific vehicle listing ads on Google when people do specific vehicle searches. Now you got a whole stream of pictures up, you know, on top. And we are working together on that with many of our clients, and we're getting great results. Just curious, you know, what's the feedback that you're getting around the country with other stores?
Outstanding.
Yeah.
And, you know, Jaydeep Jain, he's our CEO at TapClassifieds, and I shared with him months ago that when you talk about Google, it's a door opener. It's a great company. And I think the CMOs, the dealer principals, the GMs, whoever it's going to be at a decision-making level at the dealership or an agency partnership, whatever it might be, will always make time to find out what is Google doing. They've all seen their Google Analytics and seen the power that Google can provide. And I think with the Google vehicle listing ads, now all of a sudden, you're getting an audience that's lean in. And what I mean by that person has typed in by make and model, you know, it could be Ford Ranger near me, you know, Charger for sale near me, or their zip code or town. This is a person who is seeking a specific vehicle. It's not just going to be someone typing in the dealership's name, clicking on your ad and asking for general information, you know, making a service appointment. These are people who are looking for a vehicle for sale. And we have seen the results of franchise dealerships from South Florida to the Northeast to the Pacific Northwest to Southern California. The cost per clicks, incredibly competitive to what they're, you know, spending on search engine marketing, probably more cost effective. Being able to share with them by, you know, time of day, being able to share with them by vehicle, for clicks, for click-throughs, for impressions. The Google vehicle listing ads have been fantastic. They're strong. And
you guys have had the opportunity, I won't name any names, you've been able to work for some big players, let's say that, right?
Yes, and so it's, you know, and that builds confidence. It builds my confidence, it builds the team's confidence, it builds our partners' confidence, our customers' confidence. And the key is, if you have available budget and you have that new or pre-owned vehicle in inventory, you have a very good chance of appearing in that Google carousel for the vehicle listing ads. Yeah,
it's you know, listen, I mean, what we've seen so far, it's been extremely successful, and you know, I can see dealers continuing to shift, you know, traditional PPC budget into this direction.
Absolutely.
You know, it'll probably blow up, right, and then it'll level out at some point in time, I would imagine, but. It's far more cost efficient right now, that's for sure.
Absolutely. I recall looking at one of your customers, and it's a Ford store. And I remember looking at the search results for a vehicle listing ad prior to you launching. And that search return for Ford Ranger, Ford F-150, Ford Mustang was being dominated by the automotive retailers. It was being dominated by out-of-market dealerships. Now all of a sudden, I think we were looking at the last month results. Somebody was looking for a Ford F-150. They're having 4, 5, 6 vehicles appear in the vehicle listing ads. Fantastic domination and being able to take their local market back.
That's cool. Well, I'm glad that you have been able to bring this to us and help us with this.
Sure.
It's been meaningful. I'm curious. I'm going to shift gears a little bit, if you don't mind. I know you've been living in the Bay Area for some time. Are you born and raised in Northern California? Where's Mark Salcido from? What's your pathway here?
I'm an 8th generation Californian.
Wow.
Yeah. So I have my mom got really interested in kind of ancestry when Roots came out in the 70s. So I'm dating myself.
Okay. Well, I remember Roots as a kid.
Yeah. Same with me. I was a young child. But I grew up in Southern California. So I have a lot of family in the Santa Barbara area.
Okay.
And after college, I moved to San Francisco. So my first job out of college with Transamerica Corporation, the Pyramid Building in San Francisco.
Oh, no way.
And my plan was, I'm going to live here for a couple of years, experience Northern California, then move back to Southern California. And life happened. I enjoyed my job. I got married, ended up having 3 children, and Northern California became home. And so I like both.
Right. Okay, but what is life like in Northern California these days?
Sure. I think both Southern California and Northern California are beautiful. What I enjoy about Northern California is a little bit more of seasons. It's a little bit chillier in the winter. I need to wear a jacket.
Right.
And I can, from my home in 30 minutes, I can be at the beach. I can be in less than 3 hours in the Sierra and be snow skiing or fly fishing, which is a passion of mine. I think the biggest change has been technology. And so it's become very expensive to live. Traffic has become tougher. From my home, it's known as FANG. Under a half hour, you have Facebook, you have Apple. Netflix is 2 minutes from my home.
Right.
Google, brings buses into my local community, and they pick people up at the Ace Hardware parking lot and drive them to work.
No way.
Yeah. Facebook does the same thing. Salesforce.com does the same thing. So there's people who moved to the Bay Area, I think, for technology jobs.
Right.
And these companies have done well this has been a tough year with the stock market, but going back until 2008, it's been a roll for 12, 13 years.
Yeah, I've always, I haven't been to Northern California in a few years. I think last time we went out was there was a Google event and we went to, and it wasn't the main Google campus. They have multiple campuses everywhere. Multiple. So I don't know which one it was. It was, it was pretty sizable, but apparently it was not like the mothership. So,
sure.
But I've always loved Northern California. I always loved, going to San Francisco, Bay Area, being able to go out and check out wine country. It's a spectacularly beautiful part of our country. And I can see, the benefits of being able to have all that within a few hours is great. So
I'm very fortunate. 60 minutes from my house, I have Monterey to the south, Monterey, Carmel.
Right.
Picturesque, beautiful. You can go wine tasting, day spa, premier golf in the world. We have the beach 30 minutes away. I mentioned the mountains. You have wine country. The city is great to experience. And sure, San Francisco I think it's going through its challenges right now. And I think while employees enjoy the work from home and you can see productivity being, the same or better from home versus these offices, I think it's really hurt the small businesses.
Right.
I was in San Francisco on Sunday. We went to the Pirates-Giants game.
Right.
Beautiful day. It was 80 degrees in San Francisco at 1 p.m. But, the Tenderloin is tough. The Market Street is tough. There's, a crisis of mental health and addiction. And something needs to be done to clean up those areas. You go to the marina or the Castro, or you go to Nob Hill, Russian Hill, you would never know. It's just pocketed.
Yeah, you get up there, right? Particularly like, Russian Hill, Nob Hill, those areas, and it's like
beautiful.
That's the San Francisco that I always, the Marina District, or like that's the San Francisco I always knew and remember. Then you hit some of these other areas, and it's tough. It's tough, and it's like, you can see that in a lot of cities around the country. You can also see it, you see it a lot. You go through like what I guess you'd call the Rust Belt, I mean, I remember for years we had clients in New York State, through Pennsylvania and Ohio and stuff, and you drive through, these what were once thriving great American towns and cities, and the industry is left and there's nothing left behind, and you just see like you see what once was, and I hope that as a country we get back to seeing what can be, right? Whether it's in the cities, whether it's in rural areas, it doesn't matter. I mean, there's so much greatness, and there's so many beautiful areas of our country, and we've created so many things that I always want to see it thrive,
Absolutely. I agree with you. And I know we've spoken, politics and life before, a little bit on Fringe. And the other day, it was about a month ago, I did a Google search, and I was just curious. And I Googled how many people live in California the year I was born. And it was 18 million people. And today there's 36 million people in California. So it's
double.
The state has just grown so big. And I read, about some of those Rust Belt states or Middle America states that you referenced, and times are hard.
Mm-hmm.
The pencil factory isn't coming back. The calculator factory isn't coming back. I used to love maps as a child. I'd buy a map. My parents would give me a map, and I loved looking at maps.
Yep.
That's not coming back. Everything is now on our phone.
Right.
And so I think what's critical for these cities, for these regions, is to reinvent themselves. What are they going to do to reinvent themselves, to pull people back in? And I was watching I'm a big college football fan.
Okay.
And I remember watching games in the playoffs, and the state of Ohio was running advertisements during the commercial breaks, and it was encouraging businesses to move to Ohio, and they were providing incentives, but they're also providing like the demographic of these people want to go to work, and Intel moved their latest factory there.
Mm-hmm.
So it's fantastic, and you would not think, at least I don't think, of the state of Ohio as being Intel, but now it's going to be, which is fantastic.
Yeah, and we're going to continue to see that kind of stuff shifting around, right? Because there was always sort of like there was the major cities, they had the businesses, but as states, have to compete,
Mm-hmm.
you can't just run a state on tax revenue.
No.
You've got to be able to provide reasons for people to live and grow and thrive in any economy or any state, and so. You hope that there will be a continued, competition amongst states. Certainly here in Florida, a lot of people are moving to Florida. And it's everywhere. But you look at the real estate rates, particularly here in South Florida, and it's now like San Francisco and New York. What it costs to live down in southern, South Florida, has gone through the roof over the last 5 to 10 years, and it's you're seeing different regions of the country,
Florida's booming.
Yeah.
And I recently was in Chicago as well, and it's just interesting. 2 observations was Chicago was spotless. It was very clean. And there was a heartbeat to the city. It just seemed, there was hustle and bustle. It seemed like Chicago pre-pandemic.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. And my experience on this trip to South Florida, spotless again. And, everyone, the freeways were busy. There was traffic, which I think is kind of good. It means people are working.
Right.
But
they're
beautiful.
saying that this stretch, if you look, it's funny, you came and we've got
bumper
this
to
big
bumper
thunderstorms and all this stuff on either side. But if we look out there, that's I-95. You can see it from here. They're saying that this stretch of I-95 from Palm Beach through Broward and into Dade County is going to be the most congested stretch of highway in the country in the next 5 years. More than like the 405 and LA and all that stuff. More here than even there, which is crazy. I don't want that, but whatever, we'll take it.
Yeah, I was in Seattle recently on vacation, and it was good to see Seattle was very busy with traffic, and the downtown was thriving. And Seattle gets in the news, and I think Portland too, for some of the wrong reasons. And I think the media, either on the right or the left, they just want news,
right?
And they want a story. So I think when you're feet on the street, like, we're seeing each other eyeball to eyeball, but
Right.
when you get on those cities, there are some challenges, but it's just a couple blocks, or it could be a couple miles, which is really tough. And then the city's back to normal. So we just
Right.
need to figure out how to take care of those couple blocks or those couple miles and get everyone back on their feet.
Do you think, like, okay, so, the whole the technology and working from home thing, I mean, it's been great for people for so many reasons, right? I mean, everybody works here 2 days a week and then 3 days from home. I come every day because you know why I love being here, right? But, having people have the flexibility to work from home is incredible, I think, for morale, for productivity. It gives people the opportunity to have some flexibility in their day. I mean, even if it's just, being home if a repair person needs to come, or to be able to get your laundry done while you're doing it. There's a lot of things that are helpful for people in terms of working from home, right? It also, it helps cut down on expenses, on fuel costs and driving and wear and tear on vehicle. Like, there's a lot of good from it. There's also this negative side, particularly in the larger city, where now you've got these large office buildings that are not at capacity, those small businesses that were thriving because they were serving those, right?
Right.
Those businesses. And in a lot of cases, those are the areas of cities that might not be doing as well now because there's just less activity. And I just wonder, I wonder, in all of these big retail office spaces, how are they going to do over the years, and what's going to become of some of these big, gigantic shells of buildings that used to have tons of people working in them?
Right. I think you bring up a great point. First, for the small business owner, like if you owned the bagel shop or the pizza shop, the burrito shop, whatever it might be, and there was an office tower next to you or a corporate campus, you're going to be busy Monday through Friday.
Mm-hmm.
That revenue stream is really challenged if people are coming in the office 1 or 2 days a week. And I'm all for a work-life balance. I think for employees, who it hurts the most is maybe those people who are new to the workforce.
Yes.
They don't have the opportunity to listen in on a sales presentation or elbow-to-elbow training or being pulled out and saying, you're going to go visit a client with me. Mm-hmm. They lose that kind of unplanned instant engagement with a colleague who can be a mentor. And yes, last week when we were talking on the phone, I had somebody shadowing me.
Yes.
But it's different on Zoom than
totally.
It is in the office.
Well, also think about the camaraderie, like just, you got an office full of 20, 25, 50, 100 people, people work all day, people cluster together to have lunch. Sometimes people go out for drinks. It's part, like, that whole career experience, right, that we had,
Absolutely.
Of being able to not only, have a place to go to work and contribute and learn and grow and meet people, but yeah, people get together, people go out for drinks, they have dinner. It's just like, it's
culture building.
Exactly. I watched a movie over the summer. I'm not much of an old movie guy, but I watched I think it was Network News with William Hurt, right?
Yep.
And watching them, all working in the news station together, and like the camaraderie and how they just kind of all were interacting, and it was very familial and very tight. I'm like, that's cool. And I wonder if that will ever really happen to that level again for a lot of people, being able to have the opportunity to come to work and be around a bunch of people,
I think it will. I'm optimistic that it will. And I do think it might not be 5 days a week, but it'll be those 2 or 3 days.
Right.
Because I think the office, it's fun. Like, I'll just talk about sales in the sense that when someone would make a sale, you'd have people from product or accounting or sales high-fiving, celebrating a big win. Those were super fun, or a new product release and everyone going over to the product area and clapping and cheering them on. And, that's how companies build culture. And that's how you're going to find your next mentor and business relationships, because we're all going to move on after 5 years or 7 years or 10 years. Most people are going to look for another opportunity. You start building out your network. But I do believe that is critical. Does it need to be 5 days a week? Probably not.
No.
But, does it have an upside? Absolutely. But I look at the productivity aspect. So I can only look at myself. I probably start earlier today than maybe any time in my career. I don't have a commute. Right. So my commute, I walk across to basically a little patio, because I go from one room to another, and I kind of work from the same spot every day. Right. And that's my little commute with my cup of coffee. And I went to the office twice last week. And the other 3 days I worked from home, and I start earlier. I do take 15 minutes off to throw my laundry in the washing machine, or do something.
Right.
I probably eat healthier at home.
Yep.
Than I did snacking, and at the office I go by the candy jar. It seems like after every call, I'll get up out of the chair just to move around, and grab a piece of candy, or Efrat gives me a cookie, and
right.
Just like, oh my goodness, I go home, I'm stuffed. But I think that camaraderie will come back. And it's just going to be different. I don't think it's going to be 40 hours a week, because there's a little bit of the employee saying, I want to work with a flexible schedule.
Yeah, and you know what? It makes sense. It's good. It's good for everybody, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, as a business owner, I've always been able to have some element of flexibility.
Sure.
And I enjoy that. That's one of the things I like most about being a business owner, is that I can give myself that flexibility so long as I'm getting everything done. Right. And why shouldn't everybody else have an opportunity to be able to to do it that way as well too?
And who knows? Maybe those states that we were mentioning earlier. Mm-hmm. So you definitely saw. There was a lot of stories about people were leaving San Francisco, as an example, or leaving the Bay Area. It never affected the home prices. But they were moving to other parts of California. I think it was Missoula, Montana, had the highest percentage of homes purchased from Californians.
They love it up there.
I know, but they were second homes,
right? Yeah.
And then the person, instead of living in a small home, now is a big home, and they could work remotely. And I think that is ideal for a lot of people. But it also gives an opportunity for those other states, maybe your Kentuckys or West Virginias, whatever it might be, where people don't have to work in New York City, or work in Philadelphia, or work in Indianapolis and Columbus. Cincinnati, they can move out into other areas. I don't know, but maybe.
Maybe.
Mm-hmm.
It's good stuff, Mark. Good talking to you, man.
Good talking to you too.
I am curious. I'm not a fisherman, nor have I ever fly fished. But being from Southern California and or the Bay Area, how do you get into fly fishing? And tell me about it a little bit.
Sure. So I got into fly fishing from my father, and my father was a high school teacher, so we had a lot of time off in the summer. And when my dad was in college, he worked for the U.S. Forest Service. So he was like I don't know, you call him forest ranger, okay. I guess it was. And so he picked up the fly fishing bug and passed it on to my brother and I. And I find it to be very relaxing. It is competitive. I've always kind of considered myself like a closet type A. I'm very competitive, but I try to act like I'm cool. And fly fishing's competitive. I enjoy it. I'm in catch and release. So I catch the trout, I put it back in, everyone wins, and the next fisherman can potentially catch the next one.
How is it competitive?
It's you against the environment,
okay.
You against the conditions,
okay.
the fish, and I can send you some great photos of big fish. So it's really fun, and you get to spend the day outside. Nothing better. And I prefer being up in the Sierras, a lot of pine trees, a lot of nature. It smells good, fresh water, and it's a little bit of an escape. I think you can go talk to a therapist, you can do fly fishing, you can find release a lot of different ways.
In a lot of different ways.
Mm-hmm.
And a river runs through it.
Absolutely. Right? Great movie.
Fantastic movie, man.
Exactly.
That was a great one. Mark, it's been a pleasure spending time with you, man.
Good to see you. Thank you so much.
You too.
Beautiful office.
Thank you.
Fort Lauderdale is always fun to visit. Great time.
Thanks, man. It's great to hear. It's great to have you on the show. And again, this is a special one. This is episode 100. This episode, this puts the bow on the first chunk, if you will.
Well, I'm very honored to be guest 100. Thank you.
And I'm glad to have it be you as well, too.
Thank you.
All right, man. Thanks.
Bye, Chris.
See ya.